Welcome everybody to this week's edition to Reverse Mortgage Weekly, where we go over the reverse mortgage program. We go over commonly asked questions, what it is, what it isn't, and just really talk about this wonderful program. We've really made this a mainstay and a staple of our business here at Chariot Financial for the last 8 years. There's a lot of folks who are in the business right now who are doing the reverse mortgages who may or may not have experience doing these. I've been teaching the class for the state here in Colorado for 8 years, and I've just seen it transform the lives of many of my clients. So let's go ahead and dive right in here and start the class here. I'm your host. My name is Zach Smith. I own Chariot Financial. I've been in the real estate and mortgage industry for 20 years. Actually, it's going to be 21 years here in about 15 days, in about 2 weeks. So very happy to be of service in this capacity to you. Again, this is all about me. It's all about me. I've been voted as a 5-star professional since 2018. There's actually, I think out of the 4,800 people that were nominated this year, there's 17 that have had it for 7 or more years, and I'm part of that illustrious group. So just a little bragging point there. I am a certified senior advisor. If you're familiar with that, and what it means is it's a accreditation that I received, and basically it's a group that's dedicated to helping the lives of older adults. And I'm also a wholesale mortgage broker. So I do own Chariot Financial. We're a small boutique mortgage shop here in Lakewood, Colorado, and we focus on making sure that we are very competitive with our pricing. And that's the two things you want to look out for when you're pricing out who you're working with a reverse mortgage, because there are a lot of people who are offering this program now, especially mortgage brokers or people who work with different companies and things like that. The two areas that you want to, first and foremost, you want to make sure that you're working with someone who's knowledgeable, someone who has been doing the program for some time. And a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, oh, we only focus on reverse mortgage. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're knowledgeable about it. But you want to work with someone who's knowledgeable. Secondly, if you are looking to price things out, the two areas that are going to vary from one, aside from the customer service, the knowledge, the advice, things like that, those are the intangibles that you're going to find with different mortgage brokers. But as far as pricing, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, down to the brass tacks, the two areas that you can look at are the origination fee. So you want to make sure that you're getting a fair origination fee. A lot of these programs, they're advised to have a certain origination. A lot of companies mandate that you have a certain origination fee. The other thing that you want to look at is the margin. The margin also impacts and there's a lot of different philosophies about that. If you're taking out a line of credit, and you want to see growth on that line of credit, then higher margin's actually better for that. But you're not going to get access to as much cash, though, initially either as well. So there's a lot of different ways to look at that, and whoever you choose to work with can kind of go over those two things. But those are really the two things that are going to differ from one company to the next. Most of these programs are being sold to the same people. They are administered by HUD. So they're being sold to HUD for the most part on the back end when these loans are originated. So let me dive into it. I want to get too much into the weeds there with you. So who qualifies for a reverse mortgage? So you got to be 62 or better, 55 in some cases. There are some proprietary products out there where you just need to be 55. It must be your primary residence. So you got to live in it 6 months in a day. If you want to be a snowbird, in fact, people have used the reverse mortgage to become snowbirds. But as long as you live in your property for 6 months in a day, and that's where you file your taxes and everything, that would be considered your primary residence. FHA or conventional programs, best terms with the FHA version. Equity or a large down payment is a requirement. minimal income qualifications, so residual income calculations, just like we would do with an FHA loan, or I'm sorry, VA loan. And so it's much easier to qualify for a reverse mortgage than it is a normal mortgage. The first thing that a lot of folks will say when you're looking at the reverse mortgage or going into the bank and you want a mortgage, well, the first thing they're going to do is start determining risk, and they're going to start trying to understand who you are as a borrower. What kind of risk is the bank taking? If they lend you 300,000, are they going to get it back? So they're going to be looking at your income, your assets, and your credit. But with the reverse mortgage, the risk assessment is completely different because there's not a required monthly payment. There is a monthly payment, but it is optional. So, and that's one thing that I don't think a lot of people do a good job of explaining about this program, is that this is just like any other mortgage. Our friend Tom Selleck talks about that in his commercials. He says the reverse mortgage is just like any other loan. The only difference is how you pay it back. So true. But if you wanted to take out a reverse mortgage, let's say for 300,000 and pay it back, just like you would a normal mortgage, and pay it down and pay it off, you can certainly do that. So, a lot of folks say one of the things that people don't like about this program is it has the potential to be negatively amortizing, which, depending on how you look at it, is either good or bad. Some folks are swapping out equity for cash flow. And for instance, let's say you have a $200,000 home and your payment's $2,000 a month. Well, if you have an optional payment, overnight you've given yourself a $2,000 raise. So now you're not going to have to crack that nut every single month to pay down that mortgage. And again, on a 30-year fixed, the deck is really stacked against the consumer as it is. You're paying 50% of the interest on a 30-year note in the first 10 years. So what does that mean? That means that your first 10 years worth of payments, most of your hard-earned income, your retirement, your savings, wherever you're taking to pay that mortgage payment, guess where it's going? It's going right to the bank in interest. They just had the quarterly reviews and things like that of some of the largest companies in the nation and how much money they've made. And it was a post basically saying, hey, inflation is, not affecting these companies' profits, or inflating their companies' profits. But some of the banks were up there, and they are multi-billion-dollar industry. And most of it is coming from interest. From you give the bank $10, they're going to lend out 9 of it. They're making money off of your money. So a lot of my clients will look at that and say, well, heck, if I'm going to be paying $2,000 a month, and I know only a small portion of that is going to go to pay off my loan, well, why don't I just let the house pay that payment for me, and I'll keep that $2,000. I'll just put that in my pocket. So that's really the philosophy behind the reverse mortgage. But getting back to my original query there, if you want to pay this thing off, or you want to pay it just like a normal mortgage, you can. There's nothing really stopping you. So when people talk about going upside down on a reverse mortgage, it's really a choice. It's not something that is mandated. It's not like you're mandated to go into a negative amortizing situation. So that's something to clarify. And again, I don't think my industry does a very good job of explaining that. So more reverse mortgage information. Most of these programs are administered by FHA, by HUD, as a home equity conversion mortgage, what they call a HECM. There's several million people who have this program currently, and the way they determine how much you're going to receive from the reverse mortgage is based on the age of the youngest homeowner. So let's say, if you have someone who's 62, they can borrow less than someone who is 82. And it's somewhat like life insurance in the sense that they use actuary tables where they're looking at the person who is 62 being in the property longer than the person who is 82. So they're going to offer them less cash. Remember, the risk assessment, this is all about risk assessment. Lending, mortgages, everything is about assessing you as the client. What kind of risk are we taking when the bank is saying to themselves, what kind of risk are we taking if we lend money out? Well, the big risk for the banks with the reverse mortgage is that you will outlive the mortgage. Let's say, for instance, myself, second I turn 62, I'm running down to the bank to get a reverse mortgage just because I understand a lot of the ways to use it as a financial planning, retirement type tool, not just a mortgage, but a way to pass on a higher net worth to my heirs. And if, God willing, I live to 100 or 102, I would have been in that mortgage for 40 years. So what does that mean? There's a chance that I may be upside down on my property, or that payment, if I chose not to make any monthly payments, and of course, I certainly would in my position, because I would want to take those funds I'd normally be making a mortgage payment with and reinvest it in something else, or set my kid up or something like that. So basically, the risk assessment on the reverse mortgage is that you will go upside down. If you go upside down, guess who loses? The bank loses, because they're leaving money on the table. They're not able to sell that property for more than it's worth. And you have these financial gurus out there, the folks who are truly, like, people are hanging on their every word. They're trusting everything that they're talking about. And a lot of them are out there saying, oh, well, it's just a way to make you go upside down on your house. It's just a way to stack the deck against you so that you can go upside down on your house and not leave anything to your heirs. That couldn't be further from the truth. If you go upside down on the house, the bank loses. So that risk assessment is all going to be based on that. That's why they base it on the age of the youngest homeowner. Also, current interest rates go into that, and the maximum value of the home up to the maximum allowable limit. So depending on how much your house appraises for will also have an impact on how much they're able to lend towards the program there. So benefits of the reverse mortgage: you get to keep title to your home. That's another misnomer that I run into quite a bit. So it's just like any other loan. You do have a lien against the property. So there's an instrument that is tied against the property, but that's the same with any mortgage. That's the same with a forward, reverse, doesn't matter. Basic credit and income qualifications. Again, the risk assessment is different because there's no required monthly payment. Tax-free cash. So any money you take out of the reverse mortgage or take out of the property is going to be deemed tax-free because it's considered a loan. Monthly payments are optional, still responsible for maintenance, taxes, and insurance as long as they occupy the property. So again, the two biggest myths that I run into about this program are that you lose title to the house and that you're upside down on the property the minute you take one out. So it's hard to talk about this program without talking about retirement in America. So these are your pre-retirement buckets. These are the most the three buckets that most people have during their pre-retirement age. They have income that they're saving, they're putting money into their assets, which is bucket number 2, the yellow bucket there. And then they're also paying off their home, which is the third bucket there, the green bucket. So state of affairs, I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but basically they did a study back in, I think this was 2019, where 26% of the people that they interviewed had less than $1,000 saved for retirement. I just shared today with my database article that came out by Northwestern Mutual that said that the comfort level, what people think they need to have in retirement to retire comfortably is $1.46 million. That's what you'd need to have in your account. And this is according to the study with Northwestern Mutual. And I actually, I haven't posted that to my Facebook yet, but I'll probably post that to my social medias. So a lot of Americans are saving. They're saving for retirement, but they're just not saving enough. And this chart kind of goes over that. I'm not going to go over that. Again, these are the three buckets of pre-retirement: income, assets, and equity. Well, post-retirement, those buckets change quite a bit. The first thing we notice is the first bucket has shrunk. It's gotten much smaller. And a lot of times that's an analogy of what happens to folks' income in retirement. A lot of times we're working on fixed incomes. Social Security, pensions, if you have a pension, things of that nature. And that's really something that I try to talk to my clients about in regards to ensuring that they have a comfortable retirement is passive income. And again, a lot of these subjects you're going to talk to financial planners about as well. And if you ever want someone to talk your ear off about this stuff, sit next to a financial planner and ask them about these type of things, about passive income in retirement. That's why I'm a big proponent of investing in real estate. And I'm not the only one that thinks real estate is a good investment right now. If you follow what they call the quote unquote smart money on Wall Street, we're talking the hedge fund groups. These groups are hedge fund groups. They eat, sleep, and breathe profit. That's all they do every single day. And they find where the profit is and sectors are going to be that are going to be profitable in the next coming years. And they're usually pretty darn good at it. Well, where is their money at right now? They're putting it into real estate. You heard the term corporate landlord. Well, a lot of these hedge fund groups and a lot of these Wall Street groups are buying up swaths of properties in suburban areas because they know that real estate is going to increase in value year over year because the demand is just roaring right now. Freddie Mac did a study in 2021 that mentioned that there's going to be 50 million millennials entering the housing market in the next 10 years. Most of them have rented and they've been slow to buy properties as compared to some of their other cohorts. For example, the baby boomers. Baby boomers are no longer the largest cohort that we have in our society, but they are still the largest buyers and sellers of real estate currently. And reverse mortgage is a great way to purchase real estate, by the way. So passive income, because in retirement, we're not able to work as much, nor do we want to work as much. So this income bucket shrinks. Secondly, you see that this yellow bucket, this savings, all of a sudden it's sitting in a crown here, or not a crown, but a throne. And the reason that is because, and this is another article that just came out, and this is just within the last week, that said that most people are more afraid of running out of cash than they are of dying. So it's a real fear. And the thing is that bucket, the savings, your nest egg, becomes vitally important in retirement because you don't know how long you're going to need it. You could live to 60, you could live to 70, you could live to 80, you could live to 90, to 100. Well, the difference between 60 and 100 is 40 years. So the amount that you have in your nest egg, if you do not have passive income that's coming in like clockwork every month, is going to need to last you. It could need to last you for up to 40 years. Again, these are subjects that financial planners have done a really good job of educating people with. So home equity, usually the green bucket here, as you can see, it hasn't changed, but it is a lot larger than the other two buckets because a lot of times the home equity is just kind of sitting there. It's not really going to work for you. And that's the thing about equity. So these are just the two post-retirement, pre-retirement. And again, there is a ton of equity right now. Home prices, everybody thought, me included, actually, I have to say that I was kind of lumped into this. I didn't know how much it would affect, but I really thought interest rates going into the sevens were going to stall the housing market and that there was going to be a plateau in prices. Prices may have even come down. In fact, you had pundits out there, the talking heads. There's always somebody saying, oh, it's going to go this way. It's going to go that way. At the end of the day, nobody knows. But the thing is that, a lot of folks thought that, oh, well, there's going to be a stalling in the housing market. And there has been to some degree. But, we just did there was just a national study done on equity and 6% growth year over year in this super high rate environment, or not super high rate. You talk to folks who purchased in the 80s and, we got 18% and that was a great rate. Of course, you're buying a house at $40,000. So, the amortized schedule on that's much different than $400,000. But the idea is that the demand for housing has not gone down. It's still there. It's still raging. And as long as you have high demand and low supply, the prices are going to go up. So, what is equity? Equity is great to have, but it's a lot like having a glass coffee table right there in the middle of your living room full of cash that you can't get to. Yes, it's great to have, but you can't take a picture of your house and go down to the grocery store and pay for your groceries. They might look at you a little funny if you hand them over a picture and say, "Hey, here's my groceries. Can I pay for them with this picture of my house?" So it doesn't work that way, and that's the biggest problem that a lot of seniors have or older adults is that they're equity rich and cash poor. So what is equity? It's cash that's not accessible unless you sell or you take out a loan to pay it back with interest. Does it benefit you in retirement? Not really, because you can't eat your equity. Is it better to pass on a higher net worth or more equity? Well, 9 times out of 10, when people are bequeathed a home, what do? They sell it. They want the cash. They don't want the equity. Um, so what do people usually do with a home that's bequeathed? Again, they call up a real estate agent for them to sell it. So does cash do better in your pocket or locking it up in the home? And this is a question that I think a lot of folks may need to ask themselves who are considering buying home cash. There's a lot of different camps out there in regards to financial well-being and how things are best utilized and philosophies and all that. You have the Dave Ramsey camp, who's debt is bad. You don't want any debt. You never want any debt. And then you have the Robert Kiyosaki camp that's like, well, there's good debt and bad debt. If you've got a $2,000 mortgage payment each month and $200,000 note on a property and someone else is paying for it, is it really that bad to have that? Well, the thing that a lot of people run into is when they purchase a house and they want to purchase it cash. Let's say you have a $400,000 home that you want to purchase cash. Well, traditionally, people, if they don't want a mortgage payment, they just put $400,000 cash into the property. Well, if you do that, and nothing wrong with it, but if you do that, you take that $400,000 cash and you basically hand it over to someone else. You lose all control over that amount. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you want to get that $400,000 back, let's say you want to go out and buy a Lamborghini or something, or you have a medical expense, still the number one reason that people are filing bankruptcy in our first world country here is medical bills. So let's say you have an unforeseen medical event that is not paid for some reason, and you need the cash. Well, what do you have to do? You got to sell your property to bring it back out. So you've handed that cash over to a buyer, or you have to get a loan to take the cash out so that you can still be liquid and pay for whatever expenses come up. Well, what some folks are saying is that, well, heck, I don't want a mortgage payment. Well, what if I got a reverse mortgage on a $400,000 property? What if I got a reverse mortgage for $200,000 and then came to the table with $200,000? Well, now you've got $200,000 cash that has been replaced by that reverse mortgage. But the thing is that you don't have a monthly payment. You have a monthly payment, but the payment is optional. So you can still live in that property for the rest of your life and have $200,000 cash on the side so that you can pay for any unforeseen expenses. Now, I don't want it to sound like this is free money. It's not free money. You have a monthly payment, and if you choose not to make that monthly payment, your payment and your balance is going to go up on your mortgage. But it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. If you want a higher quality of life, you have that $200,000 nest egg still with you and liquid, and you can access it. That gives people a lot of comfort. A great example of this is, I'm out, in my business, I'm a business owner. I don't rely on anything else other than referral. So I am 100% referral. Well, that means I got to get out and kiss a lot of babies and shake a lot of hands. So I'm out at a networking event and I, explain to somebody, yeah, I'm a reverse mortgage planner. Oh, I don't like those reverse mortgages. I don't like them. My friend had one of those. And when she sold her parents' house after they passed away, she only got $7,000. I don't like those reverse mortgages. Well, then I asked her, well, how many payments did they skip? And she was a little puzzled because I don't think a lot of people ask that question. And the thing is that they had the reverse mortgage for 20 years. And if you carry out all those payments for 20 years, it's about $280,000. So now the question becomes, who's going to pay for that $280,000? Was it that her friend's parents? Think about that, $280,000 over 20 years that they would have to come out of pocket. What quality of retirement would they have had they needed to come up with that $280,000 over 20 years? Would they have been just scratching by every month so that they could pay for that mortgage, and also a big portion of that going to interest in the bank? Or was the daughter going to supplement her income so that her parents could live and age in place and live peacefully in their property? Because that $280,000 is coming from somewhere. What her parents decided was, well, hey, if it's going to come from somewhere, why not be the equity in the house? And then we can live comfortably. Our daughter doesn't have to supplement her income. We can have a higher quality of life over time. Because the other option would have been for them to struggle for 20 years and to have her basically reap the benefits at the end. So it's kind of like that question. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So you have to figure out, okay, well, that 280,000 is coming from somewhere. What is the best way to allocate that? What's the best way for our family to be at peace and to have a happy quality of life during that time? Because with her parents struggling and her having to supplement her income to help them stay in the house, that might not have been very fun. So questions that folks would need to ask themselves. And again, Forbes had an article a few years ago that talked about how our parents could be our biggest liability for retirement, our biggest financial liability. And it's a very, very daunting subject that a lot of people look at, because aging is expensive. It is very expensive. So just some things to think about in regards to this program. So why are people taking these out? Well, number one is increase in cash flow. Again, if you take the example of someone having a $2,000 monthly mortgage payment, I had a client a few years ago that, she had a $2,000 payment, and, she was working in one of the grocery stores as a florist. And, I was just trying to make conversation with her, hey, you must really like what you do. She looked me dead in the eye and said, I hated it. Because during the time that she was a florist at the local grocery store here, it was during COVID, during the lockdown, when people were getting beat up for a roll of toilet paper and everybody was losing their mind. I still remember Lysoling all the groceries when we got home. Well, the thing is with that situation is that she had to go into work every day because she was considered an essential employee. So she was in a position where she needed to go into work every day, and she's terrified. She had a really hard time during COVID, and she couldn't retire because she needed the income to pay her mortgage payment. Well, we were able to convert her current mortgage payment into a payment optional program. And guess what? She retired right after because she knew she didn't have to make that payment any longer. She wanted to stay in her house. She wanted to live out the rest of her days in her home, and she didn't want to work anymore. Well, it wouldn't have been possible had she not converted that mortgage payment into a payment optional program. Now she's got an extra $2,000 to play with. She doesn't have to crack that nut every single month to make that mortgage payment. Second thing is asset protection. Again, I don't know that a lot of people talk a lot about this, but one of the things that I like to focus on in the classes that I teach is, I ask people, would you rather have a suitcase full of $1 million? Let's say I had a suitcase here full of $1 million, or I have a penny that doubles every day for 31 days. What do you want? Do you want the $1 million or do you want the penny? Well, you want the penny. Because if you take a penny and you double it every day, 1 penny, 2 penny, 4 penny, 8 penny, 16 penny, if you take that penny after 31 days, it's worth $10 million. Now, that's just a grossly over exemplified example of compounding interest. But the point I'm trying to make is that the longer you keep your assets intact in that vehicle, that's what they're designed for, is for the length of time, so that you can realize that rule of 72. You can realize all these different things and benefits of having retirement accounts. But just like the penny, if you take the penny out at 15 days, it's only worth about $116. Same thing with our retirement accounts. If you go into those funds early, they're not going to realize that exponential growth. And what the reverse mortgage does is act as a financial safety net, so you don't have to reach into your nest egg. You reach into the line of credit. It's also a non-recourse loan, and it doesn't require repayment until you vacate the residence, either by passing or going into a facility. Well, we're up to our half-hour agreement here that we have every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining me today. And if you have questions or want to schedule time with me, just want to bounce things off me about the program. I love talking about this program because it has been so beneficial to so many people. You can reach us at chariotreverse.com. That's chariotreverse.com, chariotreverse.com. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day.